Hey all, after playing the Wilds beta for almost 30 hours, I've accumulated a lot of opinions about the game. Some things I like better than expected, and some things are worse. So let's talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. Starting with the good. I wasn't expecting the monsters we got this time to be of this high quality. My favorite monsters was in World. Its focus on believable monsters in a realistic environment. And if you look at things like the Great Jagras, it looks like a perfectly realistic lizard that could have existed in our world long ago. Even something like the Angina feels like it could be real despite it being able to breathe fire, for example. This focus makes a grand return in Wilds. If we look at something like the Chupacabra, it has multiple resemblances to a real frog, like how frogs in our world have sticky saliva that they use to catch prey. The Chupacabra can use it in the same way, or to rub it on its arms, to harden and use as weapons. Balahara is my favorite from a design standpoint. It looks like it could function, has a cool moveset, and the best looking armor of the beta. All of these grounded monster designs help the more fantastical ones stand out. Rei Dao seems extra special when you compare his metallic cries to the cries of the other monsters. He also has some nice interactions with the lightning, like doing extra powerful shock attacks in his arena. All of this is to say that Capcom did a fantastic job when it comes to the monster designs. I am fully convinced that we're gonna get tons of new great monsters in Wilds. Another thing that has me kind of hopeful is the characters and the story. The characters are likable, and it seems to be more of an emphasis on the narrative. The Monster Hunter team hasn't done a good job in the past when it comes to the plot, but the world building has always been top notch. This time I feel way more hopeful, and Alma so far is doing most of the heavy lifting. Her interactions with the villagers after the Chupacabra hunt was so charming. It shows that she has way more personality than the handler from World ever did. She was way too busy stuffing her face. Before we get to the bad, let's talk about significant things that I'm kind of neutral on. The map we got was vast and beautiful at the right times of day, but it could get a bit grey and monotone when the storm was picking up. The map could also use some extra nooks and crannies where the players could gather items or use as a vantage point. I prefer something like the layouts of the Wildspire Waste or the Ancient Forest, but the way the sand distorted after the monster's attack, or how the maps transform, give Wilds a nice visual variety. I just hope this isn't something we get sick of after seeing it 100 times. There are so many weapons I could talk about, but I'm going to limit it to the ones that I like or dislike. Starting with, the first thing I liked, the heavy bowgun. This is my favorite weapon in World. The reason I like it so much is it works pretty much the same here. It also gets a power clash and an offset attack. You can also load the special ammo faster. Back in World Rise, pulling this off was way too hard, and it also often resulted in a loss of damage, because the damage it did was too low and the time it took to prep was too high. And also with the new rapid fire, I don't see the need to have two different bowguns, and if Capcom decides to remove one in the next game, that's fine by me. I kinda dislike all the mobility we get after firing a heavy recoil weapon, but since we're going to try to reduce recoil anyway in the full game, it doesn't really matter all that much. The one big problem I have with the weapon though is having infinite normal, pierce and spread ammo. The prep and crafting mid-combat was something I liked a lot, and I'm sad to see it go. The weapon is still fun though nonetheless, but it takes away from the preparation aspect that I really enjoyed. The other big winner is the gun lance. The new spin burst move is so fun, and getting in an extra shot of wyvern fire is always appreciated. Gun lance mains are eating good with this one. My only problem is that you need to do damage to get your wyvern fire back, and it feels a bit odd to me, especially since that means that you need to do damage with your gun to cool it down, but that's just a minor gripe. Otherwise it's a great weapon. The first big weapon loser, and the one that hurts me the most, is the greatsword. It might be my most used weapon in all of Monster Hunter, but it feels gutted in Wilds. And I don't mean in terms of performance, but how it feels to use. The worst part of the weapon is how you can use focus mode in the middle of a charge to turn around. Turning right before a true charge lash feels so unnatural and weird, as if the weapon has no weight at all. Speaking of weight, they removed the hit stop, so the badass slam effect that you got in the previous games is gone, making the weapon feel way less exciting to use. Other weapons have the same problem, but this is the one that really stings for me. My second biggest loser is the lance. The lance always feels like it ends up getting the short end of the poke stick. My biggest problem is the flow of the lance combo. I don't feel it as smooth as it used to be back in World with its triple poke and dodge combo. The new combo routes that I ended up using have changed it so much that it doesn't even feel like a weapon that I recognize anymore. It's also one of the few weapons that I ended up getting staggered by my teammates with. It feels like they punished a defensive weapon for having a shield. Meanwhile, the longswords are getting stronger counters and hyper armor, but the lance is left losing its identity. Hopefully it gets buffed in the future. I'd like to see it return to its former glory. Now let's talk about my major problems with Wilds as a whole, and things that I see celebrated all over the internet. One of the things Monster Hunter did differently than most other action games was its focus on preparation. Before a hunt, you would gather items, eat, update your gear, and then you would post your quest. After the quest, you would go back to town, and then you would repeat it again and again. In Wilds, it is so focused on having you fight the monsters on repeat that most of the preparation actions are gone. With auto tracking, auto gathering, and eating anywhere on the field, the game turns into a complete boss rush. The combat is still great, and I will have a ton of fun with it. But the gameplay changes done in the name of quality of life is enough for me to definitively say that this can't turn into my favorite Monster Hunter game. Until we get a return to form, I will mourn the loss of Monster Hunter in favor of Monster Fighter. Being able to start a quest from anywhere and hunt any monster at any time without limitation is not a good thing in my opinion. And I've already talked about my problems with the mount in my other video. But if Monster Hunter keeps going in this direction, I might lose interest in the series altogether. Lastly, we need to talk about the floating ugly polygon in the room. Personally, I haven't had any problems with performance and only minor pop-ins, but the optimization of this game is absolutely terrible. The PS1 graphic characters and the red owl shaped like Cybertrucks are not okay. Capcom has never been great at performance, and I doubt it's gonna run well on release, especially if they add in the Nuvo, which is highly likely. We saw how well Dragon's Dogma ran, and we need to be loud about its shortcomings. They put up a survey when the beta ended, and I and the other I talked to put down performance fixes in the comments. Hopefully, enough did the same, and Capcom takes it to heart. The game is almost out, and it's probably too late for any major gameplay changes. I think it will be a great game, but whether I spend hundreds or thousands of hours will depend upon the quality of the game. So what do you guys think? Did you play the beta? And if so, did you like it? I'd love to hear what you have to say about this. Anyway, thank you all for watching. Have a great day. Bye all.